In the early hours of yesterday, the United States of America and Israel launched one of the largest and most far-reaching military operations in modern American history, targeting the Islamist regime in Tehran. And within hours, reports began to emerge that key figures of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards had been eliminated. And then later, Iranian state media confirmed that also the supreme leader of the country, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed as well. And we have to be clear, we are witnessing not just another Middle Eastern escalation, but a historic turning point. And in today's video, we will take a closer look at the ongoing military campaign by Washington and Jerusalem against the regime in Tehran. Why did the United States and Israel decide to strike now? How extensive are these operations? And what could this mean for the future of Iran and the wider region? All these questions we try to answer in today's video. Hi, my name is Alexander Korton. I'm a strategic analyst and media manager from Austria, and I'm also the founder of the German YouTube channel GEOPOL. And today we want to take a closer look about the current situation in Iran. Because after weeks of threats and military preparations, Saturday marked the beginning of what may become one of the most consequential interventions of the 21st century. Because the United States of America, backed by massive Israeli support, launched coordinated air and missile strikes designed not to just damage infrastructure inside Iran, but to decapitate the whole regime. But to understand what is happening now, we need to step back. Because this war did not begin yesterday. In many ways it began months ago. Because back in June 2025, Washington and Jerusalem carried out a major campaign targeting Iran's nuclear program. Facilities in Fordo, Natanz and other sensitive sites were struck in an attempt to cripple uranium enrichment capabilities and delay Tehran's path towards nuclear weapons. And from a military perspective, those strikes were considered successful, yet strategically they were only a temporary setback for the regime in Tehran. Because later satellite images emerged, analyzed by major international outlets, and they showed reconstruction efforts at key missile and nuclear sites. So repairs reportedly began shortly after the 2025 strikes. And many Western experts concluded that while Iran's nuclear timeline had been pushed back, it had not been eliminated. Most experts speak about that the delay was around 2 years. So already in June it was clear, if the United States and Israel want to prevent Iran from having a nuclear bomb, there will have to be another intervention. And then came January 2026. Because following a rapid devaluation of the Iranian currency, massive protests erupted across the country. And for weeks, tens of thousands of Iranians took to the streets openly calling for the fall of the Mullah regime. And what followed was a brutal crackdown. Some analysts estimate that tens of thousands may have been killed in the suppression. Many experts speak about 30,000 casualties. And at the time, President Donald J. Trump publicly expressed support for the Iranian people and hinted that American assistance might be coming soon. But for over a month that support remained rhetorical, and the United States simply did not have the necessary military assets in the region to carry out a large-scale intervention. But that changed, of course, dramatically in the recent weeks. Because the US deployed 2 carrier strike groups to the region centered around the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford. Alongside them came dozens of transport aircraft, reconnaissance planes, refueling tankers and strike fighters. And by the time the operation began, more than 250 combat aircrafts were deployed and over 100 support planes were deployed as well, positioned in the broader Middle East. And combined with the Israeli Air Force, this created one of the largest coordinated air armadas in recent American history. Diplomatic efforts had continued in parallel. Washington demanded a complete halt to Iran's nuclear program and an end to the ballistic missile development, and also determination of support for regional proxy groups such like the Hamas, the Hezbollah or the Houthis in Yemen. But from Tehran's perspective, these demands struck at the ideological and strategic core of the regime. A compromise was unlikely and none was reached. And so on Saturday, the military option was activated. And the scale of the initial assault is difficult to overstate, because according to Israeli reporting, more than 200 Israeli aircrafts alone participated in coordinated waves of strike, targeting roughly 500 sites across Iran. And the first wave focused on radar systems and air defense networks, particularly in western Iran and around Tehran. So the Israeli Air Force effectively blinded and weakened Iran's ability to respond. And then the second wave followed, targeting ballistic missile infrastructure and aiming to reduce Tehran's capacity to strike Israeli territory. Reports suggest that in the first 24 hours, over 1,200 bombs and cruise missiles were used on the first day alone, including the heavy use of Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from sea and air platforms. But beyond the military installations, the operation appears to have been designed as a decapitation strike, because senior figures within the Iranian defense establishment were reportedly killed, including high-ranking commanders of the Revolutionary Guards. And by Saturday evening, confirmation came that Ali Khamenei himself had been neutralized along with close associates. And we have to be crystal clear. This represents the most and direct and dramatic blow to the Iranian regime since the 1979 revolution. And President Donald J. Trump described the killing as both justice for the Iranian people and a strategic opportunity for regime change. So Trump openly called on members of the Revolutionary Guards, the military and the police to stand down and join what he described as Iranian patriots seeking to reclaim their country. But at the same time, he warned Tehran that further retaliation would be met with unprecedented force, and he announced that heavy and targeted bombardments would continue for at least a week or as long as necessary to achieve what he framed as peace in the Middle East and beyond. But the retaliation from Tehran has already begun, because Iran has launched ballistic missiles and drones against US bases throughout the Middle East. And also in Israel, direct rockets have struck civilian areas. In the city of Beit Shemesh, several civilians were killed when a missile penetrated air defenses. Other impacts were reported in central Israel as well, but the conflict has already expanded beyond Israel, because Iranian strikes have reportedly targeted US-aligned Gulf states as well, and explosions and drone attacks were reported in Dubai, including areas near major hotels and the international airport. Additional impacts were reported in Kuwait, Iraq, Jordania and Doha. And at sea, Tehran has attempted to disrupt shipping in the Strait of Hormuz using drones and fast attack boats to threaten oil tankers, given that a significant percentage of the world's oil supply passes through the narrow corridor. The economic implications alone could be enormous. So, in short, the region is now effectively in a state of open war. And from the military perspective, it is difficult to imagine Iran defeating the combined power of the United States and Israel in a conventional sense. And over time, the alliance between Washington and Jerusalem could significantly degrade Iran's air defenses, missile forces and command structures. But this does not automatically mean the coming days and weeks will be stable or predictable. Because a regime fighting for survival can be extraordinarily dangerous, and with its top leadership targeted and its survival at stake, Tehran may escalate asymmetrically through proxy forces, cyber attacks, energy infrastructure sabotage or further missile salvos. And the risk of regional spillover is already here and real. But of course, there's still one decisive question left. Is this intervention enough to bring down the regime in Tehran? Because the removal of Khamenei and senior commanders is symbolically and strategically significant, yet power in Iran has never been concentrated in one man alone. And the Revolutionary Guards are deeply embedded across military, political and economic structures. Authority is distributed among clerical council, security bodies and regional commanders. And already reports suggest that a temporary successor has been appointed to stabilize the system in Tehran, and the regime's institutional framework remains, at least for now, intact. But for a genuine regime collapse to occur, two conditions would likely need to be met. First, sustained military pressure must degrade the Revolutionary Guards, where they can no longer effectively suppress internal dissent. Secondly, the Iranian population must once again take to the streets in massive numbers, and this time with at least parts of the security apparatus on their side. But whether that will happen and whether this will be successful remains uncertain for now. But what is clear is that we are only at the beginning of this operation, because airstrikes are continuing, retaliation is ongoing and oil markets are volatile. So the global powers are watching closely. And Trump himself stated that this operation will be ongoing for 4 weeks. And this moment could mark the beginning of a free Iran or the start of a prolonged and destabilizing regional war. We will see that in the next few weeks. And as always, we will continue to follow developments closely here on GEOPOL Global. So if you don't want to miss anything, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel. But now I want to hear from you. How do you assess these strikes? Is this a historic opportunity for the Iranian people or the opening chapter of a far larger conflict? Let me know in the comments, I will enjoy reading them. Otherwise, I will end the video here. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please to make sure to like the video and, as I said, subscribe to the channel GEOPOL Global. And otherwise, take care you all. I'll see you in the next one.